Thanks, Goose. Well, we've had the Vita for a few weeks now, and we'll get to our review of Uncharted in just a minute. Plus, over on Spawn Point, you can also see our reviews of Mod Nation, Racers, and Wipeout.
We should disclaim that this isn't the final product, but it's pretty close. What are your impressions, Hex?
Well, I thought the speakers were fantastic, and it's got a great screen. It makes going back to a 3DS or a PSP pretty difficult. I think also it fits comfortably in your hands as well. It's a good weight, although it takes a little bit of getting used to the trigger placement.
I thought the buttons were a little bit too small for my liking, but I did get used to it. The best part is the two sticks. They feel great, and you know, shooters never worked on the PSP because it didn't have that second stick, so now that problem is solved. The back pad though, it felt weird in every game I tried it with. I can't imagine this being a feature that I'll enjoy that much, but who knows. Also, the touchscreen is really responsive. The battery life isn't that great, and once again, this isn't the final product, but with Uncharted, we only got about 3 hours of play before needing a recharge. Speaking of Uncharted, let's take a look at Golden Abyss.
Set before the time of the first Uncharted game, Nathan teams up with his old and slightly dodgy friend Dante.
So men's shoes where you got those?
Oh, very funny. Mr. Nathan Drake, always good for a laugh.
And Chase, who is looking for her grandfather, an archaeologist who's gone missing.
Only my grandfather calls me Marissa.
Fine, Chase.
You know, you're not walking, you're running.
Yeah, I tend to do that when an army of thugs is using me for target practice.
The usual mix of ancient discovery and double-crossing ensue.
Hex, I didn't really like the characters in this game very much, especially the villain, who you don't learn enough about to really fear.
General, I don't know what Dante told you.
Oh, your partner was very informative, señorita. What was it that he said again? Oh, yes, that you are a thief and a liar.
The lack of warmth in some of these scenes just reinforce how important it is to have those moments in an Uncharted game.
Partners.
No.
I found that the writing was mostly about what was happening as opposed to the story, you know, so it was all very expositional. Go over here, do that, how are we going to get over there? And I found myself towards the end of the game, in fact, even about halfway through, just wanting to start skipping them. They all covered loading well, but I just wanted more of the mystery and more of the character development that we're so used to in these games.
Hey, the Kuna? They were in this part of Central America.
Come on, I got more to show you.
I found myself losing track of where I was and why I was there, and I think part of that is because you're gaming on the go, so you need that story reinforcement just constantly.
Nate is still his bumbly self though. One thing this game is really good at is keeping the other characters close to you. They never get in the way as you move through the levels, and they keep pace, so there's no babysitting. Although there is one section where you have to try and keep Sully alive, and you both just die over and over and over again. And this is partly because, just like all the other games, enemies are just stubbornly given so much health. I mean, the tougher ones take 2 grenades or rockets to go down. I mean, it's a bit silly.
Drop your weapon.
I need some help down
Go
here.
now.
I must have died 25 times in that section. Admittedly, on easy or very easy, this game is a lot more fun, and that doesn't happen. But the whole game just feels like every single area had something that needed a little bit of work, and it can't help but feel a bit rushed, as impressive as it is. This game was made by Bend Studio, which is a different developer, so maybe it's just a bit of launch-itis, because that studio was responsible for the excellent Siphon Filter games on the PSP, which were definitely the best shooters on that console by far.
Yeah, look, even with the rough edges, I think they have done a good job here. If you're expecting a PS3 experience on a handheld, then you'll be disappointed with this, but the game does look beautiful, especially Nathan's animations, and the camera work is really solid. Plus, the detail on the water and textures is the best we've seen on a handheld to date. There are only a couple of really big, Uncharted exploding moments, but they do look good.
By the end of the game, though, I felt like I'd only visited 3 or 4 locations in total, but it is a decent length.
Naturally, every single touch screen or motion gimmick you can think of has been crammed into this game as the developer tries to utilize everything the console comes with. What do you think worked and what didn't, Barjo?
I thought some were inspired and really thought out, and some were just pointless, like stroking the back pad just to row a boat for 5 minutes.
I thought the whole idea was to sneak in the back door, quietly.
what the hell? Also, taking photos of things and balancing on logs, it's so 2008 and it's just not fun. There are also moments where you have to readjust to do a QuickTime event on the screen, and I think they're okay, but that having to let go and readjust to touch the screen does kind of break the momentum a bit. It's not that fluid. You can also parkour by tapping the screen to jump over things, but once again, it just doesn't feel natural.
I think just because the console has these features doesn't necessarily mean you have to utilize them in every game. I mean, the first time I had a go of the Vita was at E3, and I played Little Big Planet, which is the perfect quirky platformer to make use of all those extra elements and the rear touchpad and the touchscreen, and it was wonderful. But here it feels messy, and I hate having to take my hands off the thing all the time.
Yeah, I think it's normal for launch games to try and utilize everything. Like the PS3 original games did heaps of that 6-axis stuff, and then they just did away with it after a while. So I think it's good that they experimented, though.
The rearranged puzzles were okay, and I like that the gyroscope can be used to help with taking photos or aiming. There's one more excellent use of it later on, which we won't spoil for you, but in the end I just turned all the motion stuff off.
Yeah, me too.
The cover system works as it should, and the bullet registration all works fine too. Some of the enemy animations jump about a bit as you shoot them, and the AI is a little bit average at times as enemies stand out in the open and just boldly walk around in front of you even though you're shooting a turret or a chain gun at them.
Hex, this is an impressive shooter in some areas, but it's so rough in others, and by the end of it, I just didn't have a good time. And I think back to the God of War games on PSP, and they really added to the series. In many ways, they were better than the PS3 version or even the PS2 versions of God of War, and this game just doesn't really do anything for the Uncharted series.
I just wanted the puzzles to be tougher. I mean, none of the puzzles in this game were even half as challenging as the first puzzle in Uncharted 3, and with a touchscreen, there's so much room for puzzle fun. Now, I think they did a good job mostly, but they just missed a whole bunch of opportunities.
Yeah. And it's also completely missing multiplayer, which is such a shame. It's always hard judging a new game on a new console, but trying to extrapolate the potential of this device, it feels like a 7 out of 10 from me.
It's 7.5 from me. Along with the Vita reviews on Spawn Point, we'll also be checking out more of these games in the future, including Escape Plan, FIFA, Ridge Racer, and something called Touch My Katamari.